Sweet, we are live. Cool. So you just want to introduce yourself a little bit and give a little background about MANDA and how you guys got started?
Yeah, so my name's Reis Paluso, and I live in San Diego, California, and co-founder of MANDA, which is a personal care company. We're pretty new. We just launched, I guess, in February officially with product. And our first product was a sun paste, which is essentially a sunscreen. And, I guess really the impetus for starting it was, being in Southern California, my friends and I that started it together were all surfers and just going on surfing every day and using sunscreen that just really, the ingredients were, not good, you can't even pronounce half of them. And then two, really just the performance aspect of it, especially if you go on a surf trip and you're kind of surfing all day long and, you don't really want to think about reapplying, you just want to surf. So never really found anything that worked really good, that stayed on, long enough to not have to worry about it. So we were actually on a group of us were on a surf trip down in Nicaragua, and we were using some of the where were we? We were not in Nicaragua. We were in Mexico. And we had a bunch of different sunscreen products, different sun sticks and some other stuff. And I had this product that I had come across from a friend in Indonesia, and everyone was freaking out on it and just like, oh, well, maybe we could bring this to the US, and then just kind of in researching it and learning more about it, figured out, okay, we can do this ourselves. One of our co-founders is Cyrus Sutton. He's a filmmaker, professional surfer, and I worked with him for a number of years. We started a website called Corduroy TV, and it was DIY surfing. So we had all kinds of do-it-yourself videos, teaching people how to do everything from making your own surf wax, repairing surfboards, and one of our first episodes was actually making your own sunscreen. So that was kind of the base of our formula. So we took that and then kind of layered on some other ingredients that we thought were beneficial. One of them being it's called thanaka, and it's ground up tree bark from a tree in Myanmar, and they've been using it in Myanmar for the last 2,000 years for not only sun protection, but it has all kinds of other skin qualities. Or one of them, high antioxidants, it's anti-acne, anti-aging, all sorts of good stuff. So we're the first sun care product in the US and really, I guess, in the world that has added that to our formula. So yeah, mainly just wanting to have a better product and, something that was good for you, you putting on chemicals and whatnot on the largest organ in your body, and who knows what that's doing. We're seeing more and more skin cancer. Obviously it's getting hotter, can't deny that. So yeah, that's kind of the start of it. And then we just had some really good feedback and success in this first year of business, and looking to expand our business as well, with some new products and kind of just getting further reach, get some distribution outside of the US, and just really looking to grow in 2017. And we're actually kind of on the hunt for getting funded. We got our first round of production paid for via Kickstarter, which was killer. We didn't really have to come out of pocket too much, other than some initial R&D fees and stuff. So now we've pretty much sold through that, which is awesome. But, now we're faced with having to reorder and then getting other products going. So we're kind of on the hunt for some cash, which is actually looking pretty good so far. But, everything takes so much longer than you anticipate. So, just kind of grinding away on that and just keeping it going. So yeah, that's, I guess, the background on MANDA, for the most part.
Awesome. So then can you take us through a little bit about how kind of you guys started as it related to both before you had kind of come up with the paste itself, how you put that together, what kind of ingredients you ended up finding. Like, how did you go through that process of both coming up with the idea that this needed to be done and then actually starting to go research like what you wanted to actually put into the paste and then get the business going on top of that? Because I think that's always an interesting story to tell, because some people end up kind of stumbling on it on accident with friends, and some people have this very kind of like direct path that they get into a lot of that stuff with.
Well, yeah, that's a great question. You know, the formula, I guess, like I said, it came from kind of the base formula that we were using on corduroy. And Cyrus had come across that in his own kind of research. His dad had skin cancer. He's a, you know, lifelong surfer as well. So, you know, that kind of spurred the question for Cyrus, like, hey, what am I putting on my body, you know? And so came up with this formula. It was super basic. I think really all it was zinc oxide, which is obviously the sun protection active ingredient. And then it was coconut oil and beeswax. And, you know, coconut oil, obviously some people just use that as a straight moisturizer, which is great. Beeswax, that's what kind of makes it sticky and makes it stay on. And then really from there, you know, to adapt the formula, obviously thanaka was like kind of the main thing. And really that actually came last, which is kind of cool, but I'll tell you about that in a second. But the other ingredients, I guess mainly through research, just looking at what are things that are gonna A, not only help our skin, but B, also have some natural sun protection in it. Like coconut oil has natural sun protection. Beeswax does as well. We put some cacao powder in it. You know, obviously chocolate that has sun protection as well. So kind of everything, all the ingredients that we included, they had some sort of benefit, whether it was, you know, being a moisturizer, having antioxidants, extra sun protection. You know, we really wanted to have the highest SPF rating as well as we could without having to add any other chemicals. We do have zinc oxide in it, which is required essentially to be able to get an SPF and to be able to call it a sunscreen. You have to have a active ingredient that is approved by the FDA. That's a whole nother deal.
Yeah.
You know, you got to kind of play the game a little bit. We wanted to try to come up with something that didn't necessarily have one of those ingredients. But, you know, in order to like really get into the market, we felt it was important to have the SPF rating. So we went that route. But then thanaka actually came about. One of our other co-founders, he lived in China for a little over a year and traveled around, you know, in order to keep his visa going, you got to kind of go in and out of the country and whatever. So he was just kind of jumping around, surfing different spots, and, you know, just came across it through seeing people wearing it. Because if you go to Myanmar or even Thailand, some other Southeast Asian countries, you'll see the people, they have it on their face. It's kind of like their cultural icon now. You know, you Google Myanmar, people of Myanmar, and you'll see pictures of them wearing thanaka on their face. And all it away in the back of his brain. And then as we were going through this process of coming up with the different ingredients, he saw an episode of Anthony Bourdain, No Reservations, and he was in Myanmar, and like there's like a 2-second blip of him talking about thanaka, and he was like, oh wow. And so he kind of started looking into it more, and he was like, hey guys, we got to put this in our sunscreen, like it's incredible. So that was kind of how we came across that. But really, you know, I think the business was just a culmination of a lot of things. Myself, my day job is I own a social media agency. So I work with a lot of brands on social media. So there's like kind of like a lot of content curation, copywriting, and then just really getting into like the marketing and branding of different companies and really understanding that. So for me, it was translating kind of all that stuff, plus everything I learned from doing corduroy. I ran the blog for 5 years, and so kind of took everything we learned from that and then just put it into the business. And you know, every one of our co-founders is they have kind of a different role. We kind of created like a little mini dream team, if you will. You know, we've got a lawyer on board, we've got a sales guy, we've got you know, a creative like Cyrus, we got myself and my partner Brett as kind of our marketing people. So, you know, it's just, I don't know, it just kind of really came naturally. And, you know, to kind of build the business, basically it was a lot of hours in the garage, like formulating, okay, what are we all about? What do we stand for? And you know, just basically over a lot of late nights, just wrote our business plan and kind of developed it from there. And then it just, I don't know, really just came naturally. I don't think a lot of it was really forced. It was just like who we are, and ended up just having to like write it down on paper and see it. And then, you know, now we have this brand that seems to be going pretty good. You know, people are identifying with it and stoked on what we're about. And, you know, we just want to like put out positive vibes and show people that there's an alternative, and, you know, that we can do things in a healthy, natural way. We don't have to come up with chemical solutions for things that have been done for thousands of years without it. So really that's kind of where we're at, is we're just looking at what are the products that we use, and what are like the chemical solutions that are being done there. And then how can we look to nature to really find like what is available? You know, it's like you look at all these different cultures around the world, and they all have a different remedy for something else. And here we have like something that's created in a lab. You know, it just doesn't really make sense. So that's kind of our goal. And all the products that we're going to be coming out with is really finding something like thanaka, or maybe it doesn't have that big of a story, but it's just like every ingredient, you know, you can read, you understand what it is. It doesn't have anything fake in it, you know, and for the sun paste, like you could eat it, you know. It's pretty crazy. That's pretty crazy. Like I would never take a bottle of that white sunscreen and just squirt it in my mouth, you know. Not that I'm saying like you should go out and buy a tub of our sun paste and eat it, but essentially you could, you know. So just keeping in line with that kind of train of thought. So yeah, I don't know if that was a long-winded.
No, that was awesome. I love when people go off like that, because you end up learning stuff that you might not have been able to have thought about asking.
Yeah.
So, and it's cool because you kind of answered another question that I was going to bring up, which was your background. And that's really cool that you guys all kind of pull from these different areas. And I think what I've experienced just being a graphic designer and more on the marketing side of stuff is like when you start in your own endeavors and you start looking at all these other pieces that have to be put in place to grow a business, I think you start really learning a lot and just getting really deeply involved in other sides of a business, like production and stuff like that.
Sure.
How have you guys kind of dealt with both figuring out the formula of what you wanted to create in the beginning and then working to ramp that up in production? Because I'm assuming you were probably making small batches yourself first, but once you start getting more orders, you kind of have to start outsourcing that to some degree.
Yeah, we kind of we definitely experimented in the kitchen. And kind of made sure that all the ingredients that we were wanting to use were going to work together. And then from there, we just really, it was just about finding a manufacturer that could produce it. Kind of the main criteria that we were looking for is someone that was local, you know, whether it was Southern California or San Diego in general. And then obviously the barriers to entry are always money. So the manufacturer we ended up going with, actually their R&D fee was like really low compared to what everyone else was that we had called. And they just happened to be down the street in San Diego. So we could actually go there, meet them, talk to them, tell them what we were about. They had not really created anything like we were trying to. They were just doing what they normally do and adding different chemicals and stuff. We're like, no, we don't want any artificial colors. We don't want any of this stuff. Like, here's the ingredients. This is what we want. We know it works. Like, put it together. And then they were able to produce it. So, you know, it just took a lot of calling around and really just trying to find that right match. And yeah, that was kind of like the main first hurdle was really just like, okay, how are we going to get this produced in a mass production, you know, without doing it ourselves, essentially, because everyone has a day job for the most part. And so we just didn't really have the time to like be creating these batches and then pouring it and doing everything on our own. You know, obviously certain steps we had to do on our own, like stickering the labels on the back of each thing. And, you know, yeah. And just kind of to your point about finding a different person in all these different areas. Well, obviously that kind of came naturally just with the group of people that we were already involved. Is just all of our friends. And, having someone in each of those areas has allowed us to be like real scrappy and really resourceful. You know, like I said, we raised all of our money on Kickstarter, and pretty much all of that went straight to our production. So to operate as a business outside of that, we wouldn't have been able to do that unless we had, like, you know, all these people in these different places. And so I think it's allowed our business to kind of move a lot quicker and maybe a little bit further than we anticipated, because we had all those pieces to the puzzle, and we didn't have to go out and find more money to pay people or find someone to do something that, you know, we're already doing and it's in the flow. And, you know, so that I think has been really a big key to the success thus far, is just, you know, not really having to dole out a ton of cash and trying to do these things. We've been able to do it ourselves and keep it real tight. And that's also allowed us to like really kind of who we want to be as a brand, who we are as a brand, and not have to like sacrifice that by getting someone else involved. Obviously now that we're hopefully going to be getting some funding and growing, and you know, that'll change. But I think in this beginning stages, that's been super crucial to us to really establish who we are in the marketplace. And
awesome. Yeah. So then how did Kickstarter kind of play its part in the overall picture of how you guys started? Because I'm assuming, based on your guys' different backgrounds and how you just mentioned you were going over a lot of brand related stuff in your garage to kind of figure out how you wanted things to be presented and whatnot, that you had some sort of plan as to like what pieces you were going to try and kind of put more resources into before the launch. Like, what did that look like as far as your background with social stuff? What kind of things were you really trying to hammer as you worked to get that first product out?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, I had done a Kickstarter prior with Cyrus. We did one for Corduroy, and it was like pretty early Kickstarter days. So we didn't really have anyone to ask of like, oh, how do you do this? Or, you know, what's the process like? And so there was a lot of discovery that we found. We ended up getting our goal, which was awesome. But, you know, we definitely had to like push really, really hard to get there. And like I said, Kickstarter, I think, you know, I don't know how old it was, but it was pretty new. Like, I hadn't known anyone who had done it. And now I know tons of people who have done Kickstarter projects, which is amazing. And we wouldn't be here without it. We tried to get some funding going before, you know, we pitched to a bunch of different people, and everyone's feedback was like, dude, this is awesome. Looks beautiful. Great idea, but go prove it, you know? So yeah. No one wants to be the first idiot to give you money. We were like, all right, what are we going to do? We got to do a Kickstarter, you know? And Cyrus had just come off doing one for his film a year or so prior. And so, you know, we had some pretty good experience going into it. And then just really during the project, it was just, you know, kind of just pushing hard. Obviously we leaned on his audience a lot because, you know, we were starting from scratch as far as social media and just having a general following. You know, we basically told all our friends and family that we were doing a Kickstarter like a week before. And from there, it was just, you know, kind of just hitting everyone up, like writing personal letters to friends and, you know, going that route, as well as doing some PR stuff, like, you know, just working in the industry and with Corduroy and my job, having connections to some of the different surf publications out there. Obviously Cyrus's connections got us a lot of press. So really just kind of hitting it hard in that realm. And then, you know, slowly it just kind of started snowballing, and we hit our goal in a week. And, you know, I don't know what Kickstarter, I forget exactly what their, you know, statistics are, but, you know, if you're even close to your goal in the first week, like that's insane, you know? So we felt pretty fortunate that we got to our goal so quick. So then we could actually make even more money to be able to do the whole run of production strictly on the money that we raised on Kickstarter. You know, we were planning, okay, like we're going to get hopefully our goal, which was 20,000. Okay. That's like a good chunk of the production run. But how are we going to get the rest? And we ended up getting it through Kickstarter. So, blessing in disguise, you know, we were trying to brainstorm on how we were going to get that extra capital to push through. So, yeah, we were super fortunate. And obviously, like I said, having someone like Cyrus, involved, where he already has a good following and people know what he's about. And obviously the product is really in line with his personal brand. So, that helped a ton, I would say. You know, that was one of the big components of our early success on Kickstarter.
Cool.
So.
Yeah. And then you had mentioned that you were kind of like juggling this and your own job at the same time. And I think that's really relevant to a lot of people that initially try and start their own side projects, because it's not always something that you can just ditch something that is kind of supporting you day to day. What kinds of things did you run into as far as difficulties or roadblocks with that? And then not necessarily just that, but maybe with trying to get the business off the ground in the first place?
That's a good question. I mean, really, I think the cool part is like what I'm doing for MANDA just kind of fits in line exactly with what I do for my day job. So it wasn't really, I was doing anything different. It was just kind of more like adding on a little bit more. I mean, I'm involved in a lot of other things other than just like the marketing and branding of MANDA. But, I think that would really help for me personally, was just being able to kind of fit this little extra piece of the puzzle into my already what I was doing. So it wasn't like a huge stretch to kind of do something totally different, you know? And then just as far as roadblocks, you know, just lack of experience in doing some of these things, you know, from manufacturing to, you know, just kind of more about that side of things, and, you know, the operations of it all, you know, like my social media business, it's pretty lean and mean. You know, we got a cool little office in Cardiff, ocean view. It's pretty rad. And, you know, but other than that, it's just like my computer, you know, I don't have to like do a whole lot of other stuff. So, yeah, I don't know. It wasn't too much of a stretch outside, other than just really time, you know, another kind of time commitment and chunk of that. I got to figure out how I juggle that with family, and, you know, I got 2 kids. So, you know, just, that's really kind of where for me personally, where the hard part was, is just like kind of figuring out how I manage my time a lot better. Which has been a good exercise for me, because now I feel like it's all kind of fitting in and I can do a lot more. You know, it's just really like being able to focus and put your attention where it needs to go, and not focus on other things that are distractions. And which is funny to say, being a guy who does social media, it's like, you know, you're always distracted by whatever, the next post or Facebook or whatever, you know, so it's just kind of a constant learning battle of juggling all that stuff, but doing pretty good so far.
Do you have any specific tools that you use to kind of try and keep things moving along? Because I think naturally with any sort of like marketing, online creative type endeavor, you end up kind of having like all these fires going at once, and you're trying to like tend to all these different things. How do you keep your own business on track, on top of making sure that like specific key things that you're trying to get done with MANDA are actually, you know, being executed on? Because I think it's real easy to get caught up in like these tiny little things, and not look at the big picture and say, okay, this big step needs to happen before we can do this and this and this. And I think that's really kind of like the meat of what you end up trying to deal with as a startup business.
Yeah. Tool wise, I don't really use a lot of different tools, I would say, other than my brain. But I would say the key thing is just communication, really, you know. most everyone in Manda is local here, so it's easy to see and communicate. And one of my business partner for my social media company is also a business partner in Manda, so we're together every day. So it's easy to kind of stay on track with. We keep each other in check with, okay, we got to do this for Manda, we got to do this for Social Supply, and so we're always in communication there. One of our other partners, he comes, like, we use our office as the Manda office, so he's around all the time. And then with everyone else, we do a weekly call. So we have a call every Sunday, and just that allows us to check in. Okay, here's the things we got to do for the week. And, so that's where we kind of create our checklists of what needs to get done. I mean, obviously things come up and whatever. But like I said, a lot of what I'm doing is already kind of in the flow for what I'm doing for my social media stuff. And then really just calendaring, I use a tool called Trello. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. We use that for calendaring and keeping track of projects and everything. What else do I use? I use Evernote a lot. That have tons of checklists in there. But outside of that, I don't really have a tool, for social media. I don't really think there's a tool that does it all. And I found that the tools that each different platform or social network provides is the best anyway. Like Facebook, I do everything in Facebook. I don't use like Sprout Social or Hootsuite. Yeah. They just don't do what you need them to do. Instagram, obviously, their API is pretty limited. And so, I've a couple workaround scheduling tools that I use. But outside of that, I don't really have a social dashboard tool. We use an analytics tool to really look at what we're doing, because the analytics are kind of really everything, which a lot of people disregard. But, the data tell you what is working and what isn't. And if you're not looking at it, then you're kind of blowing it.
Yeah, definitely.
So
it's funny that you mentioned Hootsuite too, because at one point I was looking into some stuff like that too, and the second I logged on, I was just like, this is just ridiculous, and immediately deleted it, because there's just too much shit going on one screen, and it's like, yeah, I could just go onto the native app itself or whatever and just focus on it right there. But I think it's also cool because you guys really started from more of the media side of things, which I think in today's day and age is like a really key thing to have, and it's almost what you need to have first, which is what you guys did. Because if you don't have the ability to create content and push it out and market what you're doing, you're kind of dead in the water, especially in today's day and age where everyone's trying to shout at the top of their lungs.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, the content is definitely the key piece to it. And really just kind of finding your style and finding ways to kind of disrupt the feed. And, yeah, I mean, it's crucial. I think a lot of people, or a lot of companies or whatever, they think, oh, I just need content. It's like, no, you need good content. You really do. And what does that mean? I mean, it means something for everyone, a little bit different. And you just kind of have to figure out what really you got to know your audience. That's the key, and then how do you reach other audiences, so a lot of different tactics of how you use content and where you use it. And, you see a lot of brands that they post the same thing on every channel. It's like Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter all have the same content. And like, why do I need to follow you on all three? I'll follow you on one. Mm-hmm. So they all work a little bit different and have different strengths. And, you just got to kind of learn and know what those are and how you play into them. And, so yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely been an area that we've been able to excel a little bit in. Again, we haven't put a ton of resources into it. I've just working with Corduroy and with Cyrus. Luckily, we have some pretty rad connections to awesome creative people that are in line with what our brand is about, and they've been willing to just be a part of it just because they're stoked on it. Obviously, that doesn't last forever. But it's really helped us get to where we are now. We're super grateful for that, and hopefully, we continue that, and obviously then as we get more resources, we can just kind of really amplify even more. But at this point, it's just been super organic. We haven't like put any money behind anything. We haven't really paid to advertise. We haven't done anything like that. So it's pretty cool to see just like what you can do with limited resources and, you know, if you know how to play the game a little bit. So yeah, it's cool.
Totally. How do you end up balancing that heavy social media side of stuff with just kind of real life in general? Because I think it's, and I mean, I just took a break from Instagram a couple days ago because I was just way too deep into it for a little bit. But it's like that thing where it's kind of a necessity when you're building a lot of your own stuff, but at the same time you need to have that time to step away from it to kind of, you know, reboot and just get back in tune with who you are and what you're trying to do, and make sure, you know, that you're in the real world at the same time. Because I think being behind a screen naturally so long, you kind of get a little crazy at some point.
Yeah. I mean, my wife and kids definitely keep me in check there. I don't know. It's really hard. It's super hard. You know, you just got to kind of put it down and forget about it for a bit. You know, I'm not super active on social media personally, just because I do it every day for my day job. But I've actually, it's funny to say this, but I actually have recently deleted the Facebook app from my phone, just because it was always just like the default, you know, I'll go check and see what's going on for one of the brands that I work for, or myself personally, is just like becoming a time suck. Yep. And so just kind of like leave that to my computer when it's work time. I'll do my work, and if I need to take a break, then, you know, maybe I'll check it. But yesterday was the first time I checked my Facebook in over a week, my personal thing. So, yeah, it's a balance, man. I don't know. I don't have an answer. I'm trying to figure it out myself.
It's a fight. It's a constant wrestle.
It is. And it's silly that we even like are wrestling with it, because it's like, in the end of the day, whatever, you know, the internet goes away, we get back to being humans again. And, you know, I mean, I think, I don't know. I don't want to go on some rant, especially, I don't know. I feel like sometimes I feel guilty. I'm like part of the problem, you know, yeah. But at the same time, like, social media is good, you know, it allows brands to survive, like MANDA, and get the message out there and do stuff. And, you know, people use it for a lot of good. So you just got to kind of try to focus on the good. That's really been where I've been trying to shift my whole paradigm, is, you know, trying to kind of weed out the negativity, and been trying to curate my own feed a lot more. So I'm just like, people that I see that are trolls that are just complaining all the time, like, dude, you're going to get unfollowed, you know, like, I don't even want to see that anymore. And so really, I think that's kind of like where it's at. You spend a little time to curate what you're seeing, and weed out the stuff that doesn't really matter. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. And I think I look at it in a similar way, where it's like, there's so many people posting so much dumb shit online that I think I almost feel like it's a personal endeavor to try and fight back against some of that, because like anything, the internet is a tool, and you can use it for some incredibly great stuff, and at the same time you can use it for some incredibly terrible stuff. And so it's like, you kind of got to pick a side and like constantly wrestle with how that works and what you're doing. And yeah, so I think that's definitely the right mindset to have, and just kind of always keeping it in check, and every once in a while checking in and being like, is this how I want to use this, or, you know, is it working, and whatnot. You had also mentioned the analytics side of stuff. Are there specific metrics that you try and look for with the MANDA stuff, and goals that you're trying to reach with the business right now?
To be honest, really haven't focused too much on creating any sort of goals for ourselves. We're like right on the brink of about 10,000 followers on Instagram in, you know, less than a year. So I think we were pretty stoked on that. But not really. Like I said, like, you know, we just kind of have let it happen organically. More just focusing on what are the content types that are working, you know, and really just looking at the content that we've been creating, and, you know, just trying to hone that in. And we've really actually, because we're pretty much almost sold out. I mean, dude, we have literally like less than 20 units. We've just like kind of pulled the reins back a lot and not posting as much, and kind of maybe trying to stockpile some stuff for, you know, next year when we have some more product and can really get after it a little bit more. So yeah, I don't know. We haven't really focused too much on that at this point. Just really looking at, like I said, what are the content that's working, and just kind of try to steer ourselves and continue to focus on creating that. And then, you know, everyone's focused on how many likes a photo gets or how many comments, you know, the engagement, which is important, but it's not everything, you know. And this day and age, like, you're following so many people that really, to get a like, you should count that as more, like, it should be weighted more heavily, you know. And if you get a comment, that should be weighted even more heavily. You know, it's not just like everything is worth 1 point, if you will. You know, it's like a like should be 3 points and a comment should be like 8 points, because you're scrolling so fast now that, like, I don't even read half the captions anymore, you know? And if I do stop and actually read it, like, you won, you know? And if I like it, then you won even more. And if I feel like I need to comment on it, then you're killing it, you know? So that's kind of how we look at it. As a metric isn't really, you know, internally we kind of know, like, okay, well, if we're getting this, then, you know, we're doing good. Or if we're not, what do we got to do, you know, to kind of move the dial in that direction? What else? I mean, obviously reach and growth, that's always key metrics that you're looking at. How many people are you actually reaching? And, you know, with all these algorithms and everything changing, and there's there's so much stuff that's changing. You know, Instagram is going to be becoming more of a business tool. You know, they're coming out with some new stuff. They're going to be limiting how many characters, how many hashtags. Like, they got a ton of stuff that's coming out that's kind of changed the game and probably piss a lot of people off, but at the same time, push the needle for brands and companies. I mean, obviously Facebook owns them and they got to make their money, and I get it, you know, but yeah, I don't know. I could go on for days on it, but
yeah. And I had heard this from somebody, and I don't remember who it was, but they were talking about a lot of those changes in social media, in the sense that you have to look at it as kind of like a new tool or something to play with whenever they change something. Because I think most people, and I mean, I had this before I'd kind of listened to this little piece of advice too, was most people get pissed off the second that they change anything. And it's like, if you come at that change with more of a mindset of, how can I use this and play with this to understand how it will benefit me and how I can use it in a more positive way, that's a way better mindset, way more productive than if you are just push things away, you know. And it's cool because it relates not only to social media, but life in general. When you get hit with these different, you know, potential challenges or roads and things like that, if you look at it from a sense of kind of gratitude and love and opportunity, it's a totally different game than if you come at it with a different mindset.
Dude, that's the key to life, man. Really. I've actually been reading this book. I don't know, kind of side tangent. I've been getting super into Wim Hof. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, the Iceman. But basically I've been doing his breathing method for, I don't know, 8 months now, 8 months or so. And for me, it's been a total life changer, crazy experience. And I went to a seminar from one of his teachers that does all his teacher training. He's a young guy. He's, you know, our age, and super awesome dude. And he just wrote a book called Mind Lift. And it's really exactly what you're saying. It's like just changing your mindset to have a positive spin on it. And I totally agree. Like, if there's a change, you got to figure out how that's going to benefit you and how you can use it. You know, all these different things that Instagram does and whatever. At the end of the day, like, your complaining is not going to get you anywhere. So how do you dig in and figure out how you can utilize that, especially because everyone else is stuck complaining about it. So you can kind of be ahead of the curve and really do something that stands out that people are going to notice. And then it's like, oh yeah, cool, they're doing that. Like maybe I could take that stance and do that, or shift my way of doing it, you know. And we look at it as a business with social media is just like, how do we adapt our methods to how the tools are adapting, and really just staying on top of it and knowing what the changes are, and then just being creative and smart about it, you know. I mean, we all kind of come from creative backgrounds, so, you know, exercising those muscles a little bit to think outside the box. And yeah, we've had some success with even just like the new Instagram stories and having them be linkable and that sort of thing, just taking kind of a different perspective on what people are doing rather than just, you know, complaining about it. Oh, like they're just stealing Snapchat's idea. Well, yeah, they are, but they also like did some shit that Snapchat hasn't done that people wish Snapchat had done, you know? So like, I don't know. I think life in general, you just gotta, how do you put that positive spin on it? And I would recommend checking out that book. It's called Mind Lift. It's really just, that's what it's about, is just like kind of changing your perspective and focusing on the good things and the positives. And yeah.
Was there any one thing or a couple things in your life that kind of nudged you toward that way of thinking? Because I think you always end up meeting like one or two people or getting into some sort of situation where you're confronted with just this different way of thinking. And I'm always interested in how somebody goes from whatever life that they kind of had, that they may have been introduced to from their parents, or like this typical way of thinking. And then when they hit this point where they're like, okay, I can totally do this a different way and be who I want to be as a person and pursue these totally different things. Was there any sort of catalyst that did that sort of thing for you, or was, you know, surfing, something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Surfing is, I think, just my general kind of release where I can just go and not have to think about work or whatever. And I just go and be in the ocean and get back to nature a little bit. I don't know if I have like one specific thing. I mean, I've done a lot of different like work, if you will. I've done the Landmark Forum, the whole Landmark curriculum. I'm not sure if you're familiar with what Landmark is. And then, you know, like I said, just recently, just kind of getting into the Wim Hof method, and just kind of exploring breath and meditation. And, you know, that for me, that's been like the biggest shift in my life in the last, I don't even know, you know, I don't think I've had anything that I can like just go and do and slow myself down and feel good and get my body energized just naturally without like smoking something or drinking something. And, so I don't know, you know, I mean, my parents, they're minded, like they've been doing Wim Hof. Like, dude, my parents are, you know, almost 70, you know, and they're like, cool, let's do it. You know, it's freaking rad. So, you know, just having an open mind and that sort of thing. And, you know, really it's just a practice at the end of the day, like positive guy all the time and like happy and excited all the time. You know, it's like, it takes work, you know, you gotta look inside and kind of start paying attention to what's going on with how your body reacts and how your mind reacts to certain situations. That's really kind of what I've been trying to do. Like, you know, as a kid and growing up, I've always had a short temper and just get really like emotional and passionate, like really quickly. And so just like kind of what are those triggers, and just trying to look within and find a lot quicker rather than like letting it overtake me. Just stuff that I've been practicing, especially, you know, like I said, Wim and learning from kind of what he's talking about. And then this guy, Casper. So I don't know.
That it's funny too, because that Wim Hof method, when I had first come across it last year, Kelly Slater had started doing some of his breathing exercises, and there was a video of him just straight passing out from it. And
Yeah.
I thought it was crazy because it's like, when you get somebody that's a pretty hardcore, can deal with some big wave stuff and be held underwater for a pretty long time, and they're doing this breathing method and just getting totally torched, it's a pretty serious thing. Can you explain a little bit more about what that is and kind of like what benefits you've taken from it?
Yeah. I mean, basically it's more or less like controlled hyperventilation, if you will. I mean, it's an easy way to explain it, but essentially you're breathing in more than you're exhaling. And so you're just over oxygenating your blood. So you get kind of like this euphoric feeling. You get maybe some tingling, just definitely like this like kind of general body high. You're also like raising your pH level in your body to like optimum pH, and obviously like free radicals thrive in an acidic environment. So, just kind of naturally alkalizing your body. But for me, I do it every morning, 15 to 20 minutes, literally, that's all it takes. And, just general like mind lift, kind of mood lift, energy lift. Yeah, I mean, he also adds in the cold component. That's like his whole thing, obviously the Iceman.
Mm-hmm.
So, you do the breathing, and then you obviously have that whole experience, and then you kind of add in this cold aspect of it. So you kind of start with cold showers and then eventually get into ice baths and stuff. The ice baths, because you have to go by ice unless you have some sort of way to have a cold water. But yeah, I mean, I haven't taken a warm shower since July. So
it's pretty intense too. You don't really realize how gnarly that is until you actually put yourself immediately into a super cold shower, and how like constricted your body gets and you can't breathe at all. And you're just trying to like, you go into this fight or flight response and you just start breathing really heavily. And yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. And that's really what it's about. It's just kind of like the mental focus, like for me, like I know I'm going into a cold shower. My body is already reacting before I even get in there. And so I have to like kind of like sit there and focus and like, okay, I'm going into the shower. It's going to be cold. And I just, I got to get in the mindset and then go in. And that for me is like the immediate like energy boost. I'm like, as soon as I get out of the shower, I'm like ready to go. All right, let's get work, like gets you going. And it teaches you a lot about yourself, like how do you deal with I guess is probably a better word. And yeah, man, it's been definitely a fun experiment in my life. And I think it's definitely something I'm going to be doing for a long time. And I feel like I've already kind of integrated it into my life, where it's already just like, I wake up and I start breathing,
Cool.
So
do you take that into other aspects of your life too? Like whether it's with business stuff and you're kind of going into a situation that might be a little intense, and so you kind of get your head in the right place. Does that end up having any correlation?
Totally. It's funny because like, breathing is such a natural thing. We don't even think about breathing, and then once you kind of start playing with your breath a little bit and seeing where it can take you and what it can do for your body, you just start noticing how you're breathing, and like I said, you get in an uncomfortable situation and you see like, okay, maybe you get short of breath, or maybe you're holding your breath, or whatever. And so for me, I just start noticing how I'm breathing in different situations, and then I can immediately like go into that, whether I go like start breathing the Wim Hof method, or whether I just like slow myself down and I'll do, I don't know if you've ever heard like the 4-7-8 count, that's like to go to sleep at night, I'll do that. Or, yeah, it's just a tool that I feel like I've been opened up to, that like I have this like secret weapon in my pocket now that I can naturally do myself. I don't have to like have some sort of other stimulant to get myself in a different mindset, or kind of just immediately shift my feelings, if you will. So yeah, it's definitely, It's crazy, man. I never thought like I would be telling anyone this right now, but you know, it's like all I talk about. I tell all my friends about it. I tell everyone about it. It's just like, for me, it's been like a life upgrade, you know?
Awesome.
So,
So then
yeah.
to kind of switch gears a little bit, what are you guys focusing on next for Amanda? Because initially you had kind of mentioned that the sun paste was just kind of the first step in what you wanted to do. What other products do you kind of have in the pipeline? What are the next steps? It sounded like you had mentioned kind of wanting to reboot for the new year once you kind of get like more of the funding thing figured out.
Yep. Yeah. So we have an actual like lotion version in R&D. So that'll be the next product. It's kind of just the natural evolution of it. You know, the sun paste, it's definitely geared for like active lifestyle. You know, it stays on for a long time. Not everyone is super down with that, especially because you can see it, you know. It's you know, being a physical sunscreen rather than you know, something that rubs in. So obviously the lotion will be the next, and then we have a couple other products that are not quite been totally fleshed out yet that we're going to hopefully come out with, or, you know, some sort of version of that. Sticking to sun care, you know, feel like, okay, we've got the best already done. So like, let's look outside of sun care and do some personal care, other skincare type stuff. Like I said, still trying to flesh it all out before we really start talking about it too much. But the lotion is for sure next on the list, and hopefully that'll be our second product for you know, coming out next year, 2017. And we see that as kind of like being able just to touch a wider audience. You know, this, like I said, the paste has kept us, you know, pretty niche in surfing and active lifestyle. And then, you know, we get all these moms and other kind of people who maybe don't surf or whatever. They're like, oh, well, have you guys thought about doing a lotion? And we're like, yeah, that's the obvious next evolution of the product. So yeah, looking forward to that. And outside of that, really, you know, just trying to grow, you know, get distribution overseas. You know, we get a lot of people from Australia and Europe hitting us up. Hey, where can we get this? You know, and at this point you can just order it on our website, but shipping is pretty expensive, you know, to get something even real small. You know, it's like you're almost paying half of the cost of the product to just ship it. So hopefully we'll get some distro over there. And then, yeah, I mean, we got a couple other ideas and things that are brewing in the early stages right now that we're pretty excited about, but still a little bit early to tell how it's all going to play out.
Cool. And I think that's normally the exciting part of stuff is you control what you can, and then you end up getting into all this other crazy stuff that you never thought you'd end up being involved with.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think we always knew that we didn't want to just be a sun care product. You know, we want to be, like I said, there's so many like natural solutions to these like chemical synthetic solutions that we've created. So it's just kind of getting back to that. And, you know, the more we travel and the more people we talk to, the more we learn about what else is out there and what else is available. And, you know, what's cool is just like being a surfer in general, we're always like trying to find the next wave or go somewhere to, you know, be in warm water or whatever. So you're coming across all these different things, and just now that like it's in my kind of line of view, I'm like seeing all this other stuff coming up. And so yeah, I think there's a lot of potential out there for some cool stuff to happen. It's just like really knowing where to look and being open to it. And yeah, everyone in our crew is super excited for next year, and just want to keep it rolling.
Awesome. And then to kind of just wrap things up a little bit, I normally like to ask people if they have any advice for somebody that would be trying to follow a similar path to what you're doing, whether that be with social media, you know, marketing type stuff, or just the business in general. Are there anything is there anything that you came across that you could provide some advice to somebody else to kind of help them through some potential difficulties?
I would say just go for it, really. I mean, at the end of the day, you can sit there and try to formulate and create whatever, the most perfect thing, but until you go out there and actually try it and do it, you're never going to know. Like we could have stopped where everyone said, oh yeah, this is cool, but like go prove it. We could have been like, no one wants to buy into this now. Like, why would we even do it? And so we're like, kind of took it as a challenge. So really that's what it's all about. Social media in general, it's like testing. You just got to like put it out there and see where it goes. And some things are going to work and some things aren't, and don't worry about the things that aren't going to work. And at the end of the day, it's only like a 2-second blip on someone's radar, and they're going to forget about it by the next photo that they get to. So, really just like put it out there and see, and people are going to tell you pretty quick, whether they like it or not, and that's kind of where I'm at. It's just like, you just got to go for it and not worry about it so much. We get trapped in this like whole fear paradigm and after it,
Yeah, definitely. And that brings me to one last quick question. How do you deal with a lot of the negative comments that you end up getting on social media? Because I think that's something that people that are potentially starting their own side business or whatnot can run into and really get sucked into. And I think even just with doing some of my graphic design stuff, like it's very easy to see 99% of awesome comments, and then the 1% that you get that's terrible, you end up kind of like getting into this shitty loop of, what if they're right? What if, this and this and this? How do you end up dealing with that side of that world?
Yeah, I mean, you got to just kind of like obviously take it in and hear it first. And, I don't know, I feel like a lot of what people say, they just want to be heard or just say it just because they can, and kill them with kindness. That's really what kind of my method is, if you come back to them and say something positive and try to do a positive twist on whatever that is they're saying, then they're going to more than likely be like, yeah, rad, high five, like a lot of stuff that we deal with is just customer service related. And the fact that someone actually even just replies to them, that makes all the world of difference. And just, don't try to like combat it, don't fight fire with fire, give them that, like we were talking about, just find that positive twist. And yeah, thanks for your suggestion. We'll keep it in mind. That's all you got to say. You don't have to like get into it. I don't know. I mean, I guess that's really kind of not to worry about it too much. And, if someone's like really being totally ridiculous, and block them.
Awesome.
That's what I do. I don't want to hear from you again later.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Sweet. Well, I appreciate you taking the time. We'll have to get back on one of these in the future when you guys end up coming out with some other stuff and revamping for next year.
Yeah, cool, man. I appreciate it. And, stoked to chat anytime. And if you ever want to talk social media, let me know.
Heck yeah. And if I can help out with any of the MANDA stuff in the future, let me know. I'm trying to plan a couple trips out to California because I have some buddies in LA, and
Cool.
Madison from Guayaquil's down near you somewhere, I think. So
yeah, she is right up the street from my office. I'm actually going to start doing my social media company. We're starting to help with their social media starting in January. So
cool.
Probably cross some paths there too.
Sweet. Definitely. Yeah. Well, yeah, take it easy. Have a great rest of your day.
Cool. All right. Cheers. Have a good one.
Peace.